Welcome to this explainer. Today we're exploring a seriously fascinating idea that kind of challenges how we think about design and creation as a whole. What if I told you that the absolute greatest golf architecture in the world isn't actually built, but rather it's discovered? Back in the early 20th century, as all this heavy industrial machinery suddenly became widely available, so many architects just succumbed to the temptation to leave their mark. They wanted to be remembered, so they moved literal mountains of dirt to construct these massive, imposing, entirely manufactured golf courses. But the man we're talking about today, he revolutionized the game by going in the exact opposite direction. He is remembered for doing less, and because of that restraint, he built timeless masterpieces. Today, we're exploring the life, work, and absolute genius of Harry Colt, the architect who let nature lead.
Just think about this quote for a second. The finest golf courses are those where nature and architecture become impossible to separate. This perfectly sets up the philosophical tone of Harry Colt's entire approach to course design. And honestly, why was this so radical at the time? Well, human ego naturally tells us to build, right? To conquer and reshape our environment. But Colt told us to listen. He believed that when a golfer walks down a fairway, they shouldn't be marveling at the genius of the guy who moved the dirt. They should just feel that the course was meant to be exactly where it is.
Section 1. The Architect of Nature, Building Timeless Masterpieces. Now, Harry Colt was undeniably a true visionary, but his vision was completely defined by a quiet confidence. He flatly refused to force dramatic designs upon the land, and that's exactly why his masterpieces feel so effortless. So how did he actually pull this off? Let's take a look at his toolkit. At a time when brand-new earth-moving machines were tempting everyone else to literally flatten hills, Colt stuck to natural routing. He looked for the holes that were already hiding in the terrain. He believed in minimal earth moving. Why move mountains when you can just play around them, right? He used strategic bunkering to make players actually think. He maintained highly walkable designs, and he presented these subtle challenges that only really revealed themselves over time. Above all, he ensured total harmony with the landscape. He let each property show off its own unique personality, rather than just stamping it with his own.
Section 2. Masterpieces across Britain, proving the philosophy.
So it's one thing to talk about a philosophy of restraint, but it's an entirely different ballgame to execute it on some of the most famous parcels of land in the world. Let's start with Sunningdale's new course. Completed in 1903, this was the course that changed everything. It completely announced Colt as one of golf architecture's brightest new voices. Located just west of London, this rolling heathland already had this remarkable beauty to it, heather stretching toward the horizon, towering pines framing these gorgeous natural corridors. Picture yourself standing on that property in 1903. Would you have the restraint to just let the gentle ridges dictate your fairways? Well, Colt did. Instead of reshaping this stunning landscape to fit some preconceived idea he had, he just embraced it. Every single hole appears to belong exactly where it sits. Literally nothing on this course feels manufactured.
And this right here brilliantly illustrates why, well over a century later, modern architects are still meticulously studying Sunningdale. It remains an absolute masterclass in routing. Now, for any golf architecture buffs tuning in, you already know that the sequence and layout of holes, the routing, is everything. It dictates the rhythm of the entire round. And because of how seamlessly Colt threaded the course through the existing land, it remains a layout that quietly and consistently rewards a golfer's intelligence and strategy way more than mere brute strength.
All right, next we're traveling to Northern Ireland's rugged coastline to Royal Portrush, which offers some incredible golf right along the edge of the Atlantic. This was arguably one of the most dramatic canvases of Colt's entire career. And here, we see his incredible dramatic restraint. When faced with towering dunes, sweeping ocean views, changing winds, and natural valleys, a lesser architect probably would have tried to compete with the scenery. Colt resisted that temptation completely. He just allowed the fierce ocean winds to uniquely interact with the dunes he deliberately left untouched. His redesign transformed an already respected links into a world-class championship venue just by enhancing what nature had already provided. Every green, bunker, and fairway feels like a pure expression of links golf.
Then, of course, there's Royal Liverpool, affectionately known as Hoylake, which is basically a masterclass in subtle strategy. If you have ever played a course where you just felt completely outsmarted by the design, you were likely experiencing this exact type of subtlety. Hoylake doesn't rely on flashy spectacle. Its challenge rarely announces itself from the tee box. Instead, the strategy unfolds gradually and thoughtfully over the course of 18 holes, constantly demanding that you play thoughtful golf.
See, Hoylake asks the golfer these really quiet, probing questions. Question 1. Can you position your tee shot correctly? It's not just about hitting the ball as far as humanly possible, it's about putting the ball in the exact right spot to unlock the rest of the hole. And once you're off the tee, the next question immediately pops up. Will you approach from the proper angle? Colt expertly designed the greens and hazards so that if you come in from the wrong side of the fairway, he makes the approach shot incredibly difficult, if not totally impossible.
And finally, can you control the ball beneath changing winds? This rapid sequence of questions really highlights Colt's fundamental belief. Memorable golf requires thoughtful decision-making. That subtlety, requiring players to use their minds just as much as their swings, became one of Colt's absolute greatest superpowers as an architect.
Heading back to England, let's look at the Wentworth Club, often considered the true home of English golf. Colt actually designed both the East and West courses here, and he utilized this brilliant psychological tactic: wide fairways paired with strategic bunkers. Why is this a trap? Because a wide fairway lulls you into a false sense of security, right? It dares you to completely abandon strategy and just swing out of your shoes. But Colt's bunkers fiercely punish poor planning. The greens reward thoughtful positioning over simple accuracy. The challenge emerges naturally from the landscape, keeping Wentworth firmly as one of Britain's most recognizable championship venues.
Section 3. A worldwide influence, taking the principles global.
So here is the really crucial point. Colt's philosophy of natural restraint wasn't just limited to the heathlands and links of Britain. His ideas were universal: respect the land, reward thoughtful play, and build courses that actually improve with age. This allowed him to adapt his genius to entirely new landscapes all over the globe. A perfect example of this is the Hamilton Golf and Country Club, a true Canadian masterpiece. When Colt accepted this commission in Ontario, he was dealing with heavy soil, thick forests, dramatic elevation drops, a landscape vastly different from the sandy British turf he was used to. But rather than stubbornly importing a British architectural style unchanged, he adapted. He looked at the local landscape and just let it speak. Natural ridges were effortlessly turned into fairways. Small valleys were transformed into strategic hazards. The greens just flowed seamlessly with the surrounding terrain.
300 plus. Just let that number sink in for a second. That reveals the sheer, massive scale of his influence. Harry Colt designed or influenced more than 300 golf courses over his career. And this wasn't just in one region. His work spans Europe, North America, Asia, Africa, and South America. From India to Canada, his adaptability and unwavering respect for local landscapes allowed his work to succeed on practically every continent.
So why on earth do these century-old designs remain the absolute gold standard today? Well, it basically comes down to 3 pillars. First up, playability. Colt's courses remain remarkably playable for golfers of literally every single ability. A 20 handicap can easily find a safe route, while a scratch golfer is continually challenged by the strategic angles. Second, championships. Despite all the crazy modern advancements in golf equipment and ball technology, his courses still host and test the world's greatest players in major championships. And third, influence. Modern architects are still meticulously studying his routing and strategic principles today. His courses consistently rank among the finest in the world simply because restraint creates timeless beauty.
Section 4. The Legacy of Restraint. Discovery over Construction.
As we reflect on Colt's massive body of work, we really start to understand his subtle signature. And ironically, it's a signature defined by its near invisibility. When a golfer finishes a round on a Harry Colt course, they rarely point out the architect. Instead, they remember the land. They remember the walk. It boils down to a really fundamental choice in architecture. Do you focus on construction, forcing dramatic designs upon a property just to leave your unmistakable architectural mark? Or do you rely on discovery, listening to the landscape, finding the golf course that is already hiding in the natural ridges, the valleys, and the dunes? His work feels significantly less like construction and entirely more like discovery. That quiet confidence is for sure his ultimate legacy.
Which brings us to this beautiful summary of his unwavering respect for the natural world. Sometimes greatness comes from listening carefully to the landscape and allowing it to reveal its own story. Every fairway, every bunker, and every green Colt ever touched reflects this deep, foundational respect for the land. And what you should really take away from this is that whether you are a golfer, a designer, or just someone navigating your own path, Colt's philosophy is a powerful reminder that true greatness rarely has to shout. Extraordinary results can come from simply working in harmony with what is already there.
Now we are going to dive even deeper into all of this in the next part of this series. We'll look at Colt's massive influence on legends like Alistair MacKenzie, why his routing remains the absolute blueprint for modern design, the ongoing restorations of his masterpieces, and his rightful place among golf architecture's true immortals. But until then, I want to leave you with this question to ponder the very next time you step onto a tee box. Are you playing a course that was built upon the land, or are you playing a course that was discovered within it?
Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. See you next time.